Hello everyone, my name's Cliff and welcome back to my channel. This is Cliff's Dark Gems. And if you're new here, welcome for the first time. And today I'm going to be doing my June wrap-up, where I'll talk about all the books I've read in the month of June. Stay tuned. Okay everyone, so I've only actually read 6 books this month, which is definitely not what I was hoping, but it's been a very tough month for a number of different reasons. I'm not going to go into that, but in particular this last week has been quite tough on both of us, and I actually wanted to do this video I think this last weekend, but yeah, it's for various reasons I'm doing it now. And yeah, so I'm going to go into the books. And first of all, I'll talk about what I've actually just started reading, and that is Graham Masterton, The Heirloom. And yeah, I haven't got very far, but what I'm expecting is a lot of body horror with this haunted or cursed chair that this guy buys, sort of interlocking human figures or limbs. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, that is The Heirloom. Okay, so I'm going to talk about these books from my least favourite to my favourite. And first of all, we'll start off with a sort of 2.5, 3 star. And it was a bit of a surprise to me, and I was really looking forward to this. It has some rave reviews. That is Gwendys Button Box by Stephen King and Richard Chismer. And look, it was entertaining enough. It was a simple read, and I think that's part of the problem. It had a very kind of YA feel about it. And it was very light on the terror and the horror. What I expect from Stephen King. It had a very interesting premise. This young girl from this mysterious stranger up on top of this hill by the town receives this box, this puzzle box, little buttons on it and little levers that give her tiny little chocolates and gold coins, silver coins, and yeah, just it was fun. That's all I can say about it. It was entertaining. But the ending was a bit of an anticlimax, and I just thought it lacked some kind of depth. I know it's the first of a trilogy, but I believe Stephen King doesn't write the second and third book. But I'm going to read them anyway, because I did kind of have fun with this one. That is Gwendys Button Box. Next up is another 3-star read, and that is Louis L'Amour, The Haunted Muse, which I read as part of the June on the Range, my Louis L'Amour book. Now the issue with this was that it wasn't really a western. I actually had a discussion with Greg from another Bibliophile Reads, and he was also saying it's not really a western. I agree with him. I was expecting gun battles and all sorts of other stuff, and I also expected a little bit of horror. It's called The Haunted Muse, right? But instead it's more like a mystery thriller. And there was a lot I enjoyed about it. There's some great stuff in this book. I love the idea of lost civilizations and alternative realities. And I like the basic premise in this book, is that this guy who's kind of an expert on historical stuff and civilizations, and he goes in search of his scientist friend who's gone missing, possibly to this alternative reality. And the problem with it was that it was just too long-winded. The first 2/3 of the book, in fact the first 255 pages of this 355 page book, there was just a lot of nothing. It was interesting enough in parts, but nothing really happened. I just kept saying, if you're going to cross over, damn it. And only in the last 100 pages does the action really take off, and it becomes really interesting, and I enjoyed it. But even then it was, yeah, not something I would pick up again. But I can see there's a lot of I can see why Louis L'Amour is so popular. His writing is quite crisp, and I enjoyed the story. But yeah, that is The Haunted Muse by Louis L'Amour. Okay, next up we got Tendor Guest by Charles McGanty. And now this is the Booktuber Bookish Chaz. And I really enjoyed this fantasy book. It's an excellent collection. very imaginative, very rich, and it was fun to read some fantasy for a change between all the horror. I must say, as like most collections, I found it a bit uneven. I had my favourites. I particularly enjoyed the framing story, where this mysterious man, is he like a wizard or magical being, who ends up on this forsaken, desolate planet in this world. And he ends up in this cave with this dragon. And this dragon happens to be very bookish. Bookish chairs? Yeah, the cabin is filled with books. And he's going to eat this guy unless the guy tells him stories and entertains him thoroughly. So basically the stories in this collection is this guy, this magical being, telling the dragon these stories from his travels through the universe, through the worlds. And I have to say they were very imaginative. A lot of world building, as I said, very rich, very deep. But I did find that some of them maybe a little bit too dense, like maybe he was trying to put too much into one story, and I found that particularly at the end. But two of my favourites were, and they were really good. And that was The Undoing, and it's basically his world with all these different elements and these powers that represent the elements, these creatures. There's like kind of a magic school, and there's a battle, and I really had fun with that one. But by far my favourite was called Forsaken, and it's this world where these societies of dragons, kind of a broken society, the Forsaken kind of pushed to the side. But yeah, it was very exciting and very enjoyable with excellent characters and battles, and I thoroughly enjoyed that one. So yeah, that is Tendor Guest. Okay, next up we've got Isolation Stories by Jason White, and he's got the channel Jason's Weird Reads. Now I've already reviewed this particular collection, and it is excellent. I really enjoyed it. It's very dark. It goes to very dark places, weird places, and he pushes the envelope in this one. Believe me people, there's some body horror that creeped me out, and he pushes boundaries in this particular book. And my favourites, I've already talked about this, but my favourites were 3 stories. The title story, Isolation, which is great. It's like a haunting story about a woman who's lost her husband in a war, and yeah, it is kind of gripping, and I enjoyed that. And then there was Survive the Fittest, which is basically about a zombie apocalypse. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, there were some scenes that really did push the limits of what people might call acceptable in horror. I had no problem with it at all. And then finally there was a story called Serpent Sun, which is a kind of very twisted, sick, hectic story about a serial killer, and also about a kind of sort of pregnancy. And I'm not really going to say much more going into that, but it's a great collection. Some stories better than others, like I'm going to say with any collection, but I enjoyed it. And that is Isolation Stories by Jason White. Next up we got one of my favourite authors, that's Robert McCammon, and this is Mine. Now this is a long book. This is over 500 pages, and there were parts of the book that dragged for me. But the beginning is a kick in the guts, and you're really introduced to one of the most psychotic villains you'll ever meet. This woman is just absolutely a real problem. And the problem is that she's very dangerous as well. She used to be like this kind of a rebel of the 60s, involved in some kind of a gang that used to blow up things, and so she's very kind of well armed. She's very dangerous. She's a big woman, powerful woman, and she snatches a baby from a mother, a newborn infant, and the mother refuses to let this happen, and is actually willing to do absolutely anything to get back her child, to go to the ends of the earth to get back her child. And yeah, there are really good parts about this book. As I said, the middle dragged for me. To be honest, it kind of put me in a little bit of a slump. I was kind of struggling to get through it, but then the last 100 pages, 150 pages, the story really took off, and it was freaking insane, and it's terrifying, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And that's why it's gone from a 3-star to a 4-star. But yeah, that is Robert McCammon, mine. Still highly recommended. Okay, without a doubt, this is my final book, my 5-star read, and potentially a Book of the Year candidate, and one of my favourite new authors. And that is Maggies Grave by David Sodergren. Now, I absolutely adored this book. It's just such a wicked, wild ride. But be warned, it is serious horror. Although it's a lot of fun, there are buckets of blood, and there are some scenes in here and gore in here that will, yeah, you kind of wonder how did he go there. But it was still a hell of a lot of fun. And the opening chapters are a kick in the guts, really draws you in, and it's kind of centuries ago, I'm not sure when, but this pregnant woman in this village, and she's pregnant, that's an important part of the story, and she's accused of witchcraft, and all these people come in to where she lives, and I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but it's quite a hectic scene. And then you fast forward a couple of centuries, I'm not sure when exactly, and this little village is like a ghost town. There's only 46 people living there, and yeah, it's a group of teenagers. I think there's about 8 teenagers in the whole town, and they've only got one place to go, where they go and drink and play pool. And yeah, it's just a slow build about character development. You're introduced to these characters, and there's a stranger that comes into town, there's a pretty American girl. Where can I get later on here, kind of thing, first thing that she says. And the thing about this town is that there's only one thing really to see. At the top of this mountain next to the town, there's a grave. It belongs to Maggie. Here lies Maggie, as the witch. And yeah, I'm not going to go on more, but it builds up to the point where, yeah, they decide to go sightseeing. And all I can say, I've said it in my other review, is when the shit hits a fan, the shit really hits a fan. And it gets nasty, it gets bloody, it's gory. But it is so fast paced, and it just keeps you going along for the ride. It is so thrilling and exciting. I absolutely adored it. And I was, dragged along. But it is serious horror, folk horror, witchy folk horror. So be warned, it's not always for the light-hearted. That is Maggie's Grave. Okay everyone, so those are all the books that I've read in June. I'm hoping tomorrow to post my July TBR. And once again, I'm sorry, this last week I haven't posted that much. It's been a bit tough. But we're through that now. So yeah, I'll do my July TBR, you can look forward to that. But let me know if you read any of these books down below. And yeah, take care of yourselves, keep those pages turning, and cheers.